It's 7 o'clock, and we'll call to order City Council meeting for April 25th, 2016. Elaine, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mrs. Keller. Here. Mr. DeGenova.
Here.
Mr. Rohr.
Here.
Mr. Hellinger.
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Here.
Mayor Riggle.
Here. Item 2 is invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please stand. And before I give prayer, I'd like you to all notice this empty chair. This chair is for Larry Clyde, who we lost this week. And even though Larry's not here with us, he's always with us. He's been within this community for as long as I've known him, helping in so many different ways. So I'm going to ask for a moment of silence first for Larry. Thank you. Lord, I ask that you watch over our meeting, watch over our guests tonight, whatever they might be here for, whatever subject. Reach out to all of our council members and their families and our staff while they take time out of their lives to serve you and serve our community. I ask that you watch over our officers and all of our servicemen, both here and abroad. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Good job.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 on the agenda is approval of motion summary. Will Elaine please read this into the record?
Approval of the motion summary of the regular meeting of council held April 11th, 2016, as recorded and transcribed.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. DeGenova. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Keller. Yes. Mr. DeGenova.
Yes.
Mr. Rohr.
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Yes.
Mayor Riggle.
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. If you'll please read this into the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary for the Sister City Advisory Board meeting held January 12th, 2016. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary for the 2016 Charter Review Commission meeting held March 3rd, 2016. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting held March 15th, 2016. Item D, resolution number 16-15, a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for the Ohio Attorney General's Drug Use Prevention Grant Program for the 2016-2017 school year. Item E, resolution number 16-16, a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application to the State of Ohio Department of Transportation, Division of Aviation for Ohio Airport Grant Projects funding.
And before we vote on this, item E, we're going to take out of the consent agenda. It is further down on our agenda tonight. What is the wish of council on the consent agenda minus item E?
I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Keller, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova.
Yes.
Mr. Rohr.
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Yes.
Mayor Riggle.
Yes, motion carries. Item 6 is time set aside for letters, petition, or public comments for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward at this time? If you'll come forward to the chair here. And as you sit down, we'll need your name and address for the record. You can speak into that microphone for us.
Wayne Johnson, 507 Round Pearl Court, Delaware, Ohio.
Thank you.
And I have a couple questions concerning, does the city council currently have any plans to build a full-size pool?
Well, we have a pool at Mingo.
Well, if you go there during the summertime, you can't find a place to put your towel down and the pool's full. So I assume that Delaware, the city council anticipates the growth of the city within the next 5 to 10 years. So you're going to need a full-size pool.
Okay.
Now, I see the splash pad that they built over by the VA Center in the Y. But that's only a 6-inch splash pad, and that's only going to address approximately 10% of the residents in the city. Is it possible to make that a full-size regular pool like Mingo?
The actual area where the splash pad is?
Well, additional
Yeah.
to it? Or
Probably not right there, but when we designed the community center and the YMCA, it was contemplated that at some point in the future, we might need to put an outdoor pool. So there's property on the footprint of where the community center is that would accommodate that.
Well, do you have any plans for that? I mean,
No immediate plans.
what I didn't understand is why would you put a 6-inch splash pad in rather than a regular pool like Mingo that has a kid's pool? That seems like a waste of money to me.
Well, because we already have a pool.
Mingo is filled up again. You can't even get in to put your towel down during a sunny day during the summertime. You can't even get in the pool. It's so full. Every kid in town's there.
Well, now all the kids will be at the splash pad.
Well, I'm assuming the splash pad is going to address the 1 to 7-year-old age group. Why not have something you're going to spend the same amount of money for, address all the age groups of teenagers and adults? Adults and teenagers are not going to sit on a 6-inch splash pad. That's not going to happen. That's my question, I guess. So,
If he gives us his name and phone number.
If you will give Elaine your phone number, we can follow back up with you if you don't mind.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those hips replaced and my sense of balance is not
It's okay. Take your time.
Um, This is a first, and my name's Karen Fisher, and I live at 15 Sulu Road, Delaware, Ohio, 43015.
Thank you.
And I've run into a challenge, and I don't know who can address it. So I guess coming here for your combined wisdom. I moved from Columbus to here in fall of 2001, and at the closing on my home, I was provided papers for a water tap in and water line, and told, I'd just go to City Hall and could get it hooked up, and they reduced the price of the home a little bit due to this. Took some time to get settled in. Whoops, 2002, went and spoke with Gus Comstock. Maybe some of you remember him. Okay. And he looked into it, and he said, he emailed me back and he said, Karen, you don't have a water line. And, and so then I said, what am I supposed to do? Yada, yada, yada. And he said, well, he would look into it. And so he checked into it, checked with Brad Stanton, and I do have it here in my notes. Okay, Karen, until there's water line, there's little we can do. And he spoke to Brad, and Brad said that they were, let's see, this was April 2003. Gus Winston Sulu Drive water line installation is on our project to do this year. We hope to have the design work and the approval by June 1st and begin work after that. I will keep you updated. Well, to cut to the chase, it didn't get installed till 2006. And when I moved here, the water tap was either 23 or 2,800. And when I saw that it was going to be increased, I again went back to Gus and said, you guys can't do anything, and I'm going to be penalized. So he sent me to the lower level, and I guess the engineering department was maybe here back in 2003 or 4, because I think that's part of my challenge here. I think they've moved 2 or 3 times, and so records have maybe been displaced, or and they took my paperwork and everything. And I said, are you going to give me anything, a receipt or something? He said, no, don't worry about it. You're on the list. And I had found it was nice working in a smaller community because it was a little bit more relaxed and you could take everything at their word and things would, transpire. My health took a downturn and finances did. And I finally, in 2013, was able to get, my mother sold her home and gave me the check for the $2,800. So I go down to City Hall, and then they send me over to another department, and then they send me to another department, and came back and said, I have to pay the 58. And I'm on Social Security, disability, and one of the Delaware people was looking into it, and he said that there was a water line there back in 2002, and that I could have tapped into it back then. And well, again, I have pictures showing that there was no water line. It was due to the fire department, and praise be to the fire department, because we had no fire hydrants. So if anything caught on fire, again, we're in the city proper by Wesleyan Woods. And, but like I said, I just kept being told, Karen, until you get the water line, until we get the water line, the city can't do anything. And so I thought it was addressed and I was all set, and it was only $995 or thereabouts in 1999. And I don't know, this is an old area. It's right across from the Delaware shopping center. And the home did have the sewer line. And I don't know why, way back when, but, we don't know the history or why those things occur. So, and again, this kind of a decision, I realized would have to have some kind of authorization, because if there isn't a specific record, like in the civil department, other people can't necessarily make the decision, because everybody's going to go, what are you doing here? And so that's why I thought I'd come here and bring my papers, bring my pictures, and maybe you folks can advise me on what I can do or how I can go about, because I like Delaware. They stood behind what they do, and let's see, and yeah, I've got them like 2003, 2002 when I first started, and so I'm just
Okay.
saying that, so.
Karen, I took your phone call last night. I wasn't able to call you back last night. I do work a full-time job, although I took some of my lunch hour to read all of your emails to me, quite lengthy. That's okay. I can't explain what's been going on, but Brad Stanton is here, and maybe he could set a time to meet with you and try to figure this all out, if that would be all right
That
with
would be
you.
wonderful. That would be,
Okay, if you will give Elaine your phone number,
Okay,
then she'll get it to Brad, and he'll call you, and we'll kind of resolve this
Okay.
in that manner.
yes. And I will say, kudos to your mayor, because I called on Friday afternoon, and she called me back and said I could call her on the weekend. And I thought, that was very nice. But you need the weekend for yourself, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did you have a question?
We were trying to locate Zulu Drive, and
Oh.
I think it's north of Pollyanna, but it's not in this.
Sulu is off.
Is that
On
Winston and
Winston?
Zoo?
Yeah, right by, yeah, it's not in the city, is it? It is?
It's parallel across 23, right across SU.
Okay. Now we know where that is. Anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Jones?
I have none, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have none.
Mr. DeGenova?
All right,
I have nothing.
Mr. Rohr?
nothing.
Gosh, we've been lazy this week, huh? Okay, introductions. Ted Miller is here.
Yeah. Yes, it gives me pleasure to introduce the city's new Parks and Natural Resources Director, Ted Miller. Ted most recently still is until next Tuesday, with Preservation Parks of Delaware County, where he has been their chief landscape architect and planner for the last 12 years. Prior to that, he was in the private sector. He brings with him a landscape architecture degree from Ohio State University, and he was one of 65 candidates who applied for the position of director. And I'm just very pleased to introduce him to you tonight to head up the newly formed Parks and Natural Resources Department. Shortly after the appointment was made, I received a call from Rita Awe. Rita was the long-standing Preservation Parks Executive Director who had nothing but compliments for Ted, and said that Preservation Parks wouldn't be what it is today without Ted Miller. And to me, that's a high compliment. And we have a person with exceptional qualifications that I look forward to introducing to council tonight, to the Shade Tree Commission. He was at the Parks Board last week, and he, I think, will fit in very well with our staff and our community. So with that said, Ted, you had a few more remarks he was going to make.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's good timing right now with all the projects going on with the dog park, the Veterans Park, and the splash pad. So I'd like to build on those things, as moving forward, assessing some of the plans and policies that we have, and just kind of updating the priorities. I know one of those is the bike plan, kind of diving into that right now. So it's exciting, and want to keep that going, that momentum going, and make sure we get a good product out of that. And that's moving forward right now. And also, just reviewing, Tom and I met a little bit, and we've kind of reviewing some of the Parks and Natural Areas Index, just to kind of see where Delaware is on a national scale, and evaluating that a little bit more, getting into that some more, and hopefully, setting some goals up for the department as we move forward on that. And also, I guess, long term, how we can effectively plan for the future. Delaware's growing, and anticipating that growth, and making sure we, keep up with the service needs for the community. So, and then, looking outside of that, I'm involved in some of the regional planning too, and I want to make sure, Delaware, we can keep up with, being contiguous with our adjacent townships, and also on a regional scale, making sure we fit into that scheme there too. So, looking forward to everything, and working with everybody, and I'm excited. I'll officially start next Wednesday, and hit the ground running. So,
Well, welcome.
thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks.
Tom, where is Ted's office going to be?
Ted's office will be at the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Yep. He'll be down there with Stacy, yes.
Okay. And item 9 on the agenda, if Alicia would meet me up front, please. You look nervous. Yeah. I have a proclamation for you. Whereas the City of Delaware has a responsibility to recognize occasions of outstanding significance. And whereas Junior Alicia Halstead represents the Delaware Hayes High School bowling program in the Division I State High School Tournament in Columbus. And whereas Alicia Halstead completed as an individual qualifier and placed 11 among 100 girls with a 595 series that included a high score of 224. And whereas the Hayes girls team placed 20th in the sectionals and 10th in the district to cap off a successful season. Whereas Alicia Halstead honors her school and our community with her considerable skill in sportsmanship. Now therefore I, Carolyn K. Riggle, Mayor of the City of Delaware, do hereby issue this proclamation in honor of the State High School Bowling Championship participant Alicia Halstead in the City of Delaware, Ohio, and I'm joined by my fellow citizens in congratulating Alicia on her outstanding season. If you want to say anything, obviously not.
What grade is
She's a junior.
junior, so you'll be back next year.
I love the bowl, but I don't have a bowling with you. And then Paul and Cindy, if you want to come forward? Susan?
Susan.
Tom's here also.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Tom.
Would you all like to come up? Yeah?
Lord, was you
I need to do a presentation, okay?
Second into there.
This is a proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas the purpose of Arbor Day is to promote a continued awareness of the values of trees and forests for the citizenry of Delaware. And whereas the conservation and restoration of our forests and all natural resources through proper management techniques has been a long desirable goal. And whereas the knowledge of an interest in conservation is valued in the development of character in the future generations. Whereas the programs of planting by youth and adults in the Delaware community may further promote the worthy practice of the deforestation and community beautification. Now therefore, I, Carolyn K. Riddle, Mayor of the City of Delaware, do hereby designate Friday, April 29, 2016 as Arbor Day in the City of Delaware and call upon the citizens of Delaware to observe this day and to renew the progress that has been made by the conservation and restoration of our natural resources and to promote current efforts in community beautification. Congratulations. And then if you'd like to give your presentation.
Good evening. I'm just here to give some highlights of the 2015 the 2015 annual report to City Council for the Shade Tree Commission. Just want to remind everyone that better get these on. Delaware's urban forest is a $14 million asset and contributes $700,000 a year in benefits to residents through ecosystem services. This is calculated by the iTree software developed by The Ohio State University. Some of the highlights for 2015 include 326 trees were planted in the fall of 2015. This comes after 600 were planted in 2014, so almost 1,000 trees were planted in the last 2 years, which means we've almost caught up to the $1,300 tree deficit that we incurred due to emerald ash borer. That was a major hit that we have been able, through the hard work of people like Doug and his crew and a lot of other people, we've been able to respond to that very major hit that we took due to emerald ash borer. We planted 27 different species and varieties, so I think everyone should be aware that we value biodiversity and the stability that is inherent in a biodiverse urban forest. 7 trees were planted as part of the city's cost share program, where residents provide half of the estimated cost for trees and planting. The commission completed 28 formal and informal reviews and approvals where appropriate of new developments, both commercial and residential. And these will include around 800 new right-of-way trees, and those are going to be the city's responsibility to maintain. Doug Richmond and his crew pruned 764 trees, either for sidewalk, street, or sign clearance, or due to citizens' requests. They removed 62 dead, dying, or dangerous trees in the city. Did everyone get a copy of this, by the way?
I don't know if it was.
Okay, good. The commission continued outreach efforts in 2015 with the May 1st Friday event. We're gearing up for that again to hand out more tree seedlings to the public and make our profile, kind of raise our profile to the community and make them aware of the fact that we are a Tree City USA. and that is an amenity that not all communities have. We also participated in the Northern Olentangy Watershed Festival at Mingo Park, where we talked about, we gave, provided information to the general public about the role trees play in maintaining healthy watersheds. And we collaborated with Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District in order to make that happen. Well, they provided the pine seedlings for the First Friday event. We collaborated with a lot of different agencies and organizations at the Watershed Festival. So we're trying to raise our profile a little bit with the general public and with the professional community in the area. We continue discussing the tree stewardship program, which would involve interested citizens to help care for city street trees. That's still in the works. We're still in the process of garnering neighborhood support for this type of a program, and we're still trying to iron out the details on that, but we're going to continue to work on that so that people begin to take ownership of their urban forest, and it would also help help our crews out with doing some of the more simple maintenance on these trees. And also last year we celebrated Arbor Day with the planting of a Shumard oak on the grounds of the YMCA. The oak tree was donated by the Arbors Nursing Home. And lastly, for the 35th consecutive year, the city was awarded the recognition as Tree City USA. And a lot of communities would not be able to pull off this kind of task, be able to fulfill the requirements of maintaining the status of Tree City USA. We have, and I think that it's an amenity that's helpful for everyone in the community, and it's something to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Are you still planning, Paul, to have Tree City USA here in 17, is it, 16?
They've already got their schedule filled for the next
3
3 years.
years? So we don't have to worry about the budgeting yet of it then, okay.
Yeah, I guess
wanted to
that,
make sure we didn't exclude you if it was going to be in 17.
yeah, we'll be keeping everyone posted on that, because that will be something that has to be planned for financially as well as logistically. So,
Yeah.
And it would be a nice feather in our cap to host that event, especially since we've been doing this for 35 years now. This
Right.
is turning into a tradition.
I think we did it 25 years ago.
Did you? Oh,
We
okay.
hosted it 25 years.
Great. Okay.
Paul, just real quickly, with the the flowering of the trees downtown, it's always beautiful. We always get the berries on the ground, and I know there's been questions about that from Main Street. What's the latest thinking on the Shade Tree Commission's part with respect to the species that we have planted downtown?
Well,
In a nutshell, because
in a nutshell, we haven't discussed that officially. That hasn't been an official item in any of our meetings lately. The botanical fact of the matter is that if you have flowers, you're going to have fruits. And people love to see the flowers. Unfortunately, fruits follow. And I'm not really sure if there's any other solution than to sweep them up. You know, that's my personal opinion. We have not addressed that as a commission. If you would like us to put that on a future agenda, I'll mention that at tomorrow night's meeting in the member comment section. I can bring that up and we can put that. What did you have in mind?
No, nothing in particular. I just know it comes up from time to time, especially during this time of the year, when you have some who are very diligent about getting the berries swept up, and others who may not be. And so it's, and I know that Francis Hamilton's mentioned it from time to time, but We can have an offline discussion about it, but
Okay,
just wanted to make you aware of it.
okay, thank you.
When they
Yeah, I'll
did
do that.
street scrape and went through and cut all the trees down and started all over, I know there were several merchants downtown that did not want those back because of people tracking them into their businesses and staining the rugs, and then they put them right back in. And not just you, but whoever was on the committee at that time still recommended it. So I thought that was interesting.
Right,
This came up how many years ago? 15?
Yeah.
Whenever streetscape was, yeah.
right. And, you know, that is something that has to be considered when where there are flowers, there are fruits, and we can include Ted on this discussion as well. But they're the right shape, the right form, the right size. Some people just don't like the mess that they make. They do a lot of other wonderful things.
Right.
Dealing with the mess, it seems, is a small price to pay, but that's only my opinion, you know? So, but we will talk about this more.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Susan and Tom also. Okay, we're going to jump on down to 7:30 public hearing, which is item 11. Elaine will please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 16-27, an ordinance approving amendments to chapter 1151.02, non-conforming buildings or structures, and 1151.03, non-conforming use of buildings and land of the Planning and Zoning Code to revise regulations related to non-conforming use of buildings, structures, and land.
Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, we had just a brief overview at your last meeting about this subject. Today is the formal public hearing, as you're well aware. This is a lot of words to achieve kind of a small change in our code that we think is going to help a lot of homeowners in the city. There are two sections in code. In the non-conforming section of the zoning code that have heretofore required that you could not rebuild a house in a business district or some other district where it wouldn't otherwise conform to the uses allowed in those districts, or perhaps in certain cases to the lots. And if it was damaged by fire or something of that nature by more than 50%, you couldn't rebuild it. Of course, determining that 50% is always difficult as well. In the current lending environment, with the many regulations that are occurring, particularly with refinances, as the mayor is well aware, it's very difficult and seemingly ever-changing and sometimes random lending environment that we're in today. We hope that moderates itself, but just made good sense to take a look at this overall in our code and say, for single-family homes, could we allow them, if they are burned down, or as we say, damaged by an act of God, by whatever percentage, that they could be rebuilt to the same extent that they existed immediately prior. Now, if you demolish your own home as a willful act, this does not exempt you. This does not apply to you. Then you would have to be conforming. So there were a number of people, and I think some of them are here tonight, around the Lewis Street and Lake Street area. And so this is just an example for you, and the reason why the issue came to the forefront and the reason why staff ended up sponsoring a city zone change. So this applies citywide. This is just an example. But this is the area of Lewis Street, just north of William. We had 4 properties here, and there are a few more than that actually in the area that are zoned commercial, red in this case. And you have, this is kind of a, there's a bunch of different uses here. You have an apartment building on the corner. You do have a commercial use and a gas station on the other corner, and you have some single-family homes that have been here for a long, long time. It's kind of a little bit easier to see an aerial photograph, I think. Some of the, just the different nature of the use as well. There was one lady in particular that was trying to refinance her home, had not had a problem a couple, 3 years ago doing that, was having tremendous difficulty now refinancing because of this issue. We took a look in the area, and really 4 houses is not a zoning district, so trying to make a district change to 4 houses would have been difficult for us to support for a variety of reasons. And it got us looking at the current lending environment in addition to these code sections, and bringing forth this citywide change for you. So there are a lot of technicalities included in there that I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but your Planning Commission went into this in great detail and recommends unanimous approval of these changes as well. I think it will help our single-family homeowners, and I don't, both Lance and I don't see a particular downside of this really moving forward, as we've contained it, we believe, and with Darren's help, looking at just single-family uses in the city. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. We do recommend approval of those.
Any questions? And what is the wish of council on this?
Public hearing.
Oh, public hearing. Anybody in the public want to come forward at this time? How about you guys? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Now what's the wish of council?
That I move to approve ordinance number 1627.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Yeah, you need to suspend the rules first. So.
Yeah, this is the second reading. I'm looking at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then I'm just going to rule on ordinance 16-27.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Night.
1627.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries. And I appreciate Dave looking into this.
Yeah, and to be fair, the mayor brought this up at least a year or two ago and
Oh,
asked us to kind of take a look at this and just make sure we were on track citywide as well. And we had a conversation about it at that point in time. So kudos to you as well.
Now she can get refinanced.
She can get refinanced and so can others. And
Yes.
if the worst happens, people can rebuild their home.
Right. Okay, it's not quite 7:40. Well, it will be in 3 minutes. How about if you read slowly number 12?
Too slow.
Ordinance number 16-28. An ordinance approving a rezoning for Sawmill Delaware Investments LLC to the existing M1 PMU Light Manufacturing Planned Mixed Use Overlay District at 2663 Airport Road, parcel number 419-220-02-003-000 on approximately 47.558 acres.
Very good. Mr. Upland?
Do I have to talk slowly too? Madam Mayor, members of council, this is a zone change that's, we have slides for you, but really it has to do with the text of your recently approved Sawmill Delaware Investments LLC. This was also captioned at the time, the EMS rezoning out on Innovation Court. So I'll put the map up for you, even though you all know where we are, just off of 42. You can see the cul-de-sac in there, and actually it's so new that you don't see the parcel line. Parcel lines in there on this map yet. The county just got those in after we did these maps. So, but there are parcels created from the original subdivision as well. And here's the aerial photograph should we need it. But the textural changes, the applicant brought forward some proposals that we coordinated with economic development and the city manager's office as well as the law director, and just internally to be consistent with our own and your own decisions relative to industrial properties in the past. And we arrived at the changes that you have in front of you in a red line format. Hopefully that's in your packet. But basically clarifying that wholesale to businesses serving vendors and suppliers to residential commercial construction is permitted as under the warehouse and indoor storage facility. We would interpret it that way anyway, but this is just really a clarification for that. Adding the transportation-related businesses, including air and ground freight, package pickup, and delivery centers are a limited use, really limited to Lot 6 only, and the rest of these apply to Lot 6 only in the subdivision, which is in this corner of the subdivision. Is about a little over 7 acre lot of that subdivision, the southwest corner of the subdivision, if you couldn't see that. So we've really further contained it within these 40 to 50 acres to just one lot. And then allowing limited, again, ancillary retail. So if you're conducting an otherwise industrial or industrial type business in the building, but you have a bit of a retail front in the front of your establishment, up to 4,000 square feet or 25% of the demised tenant space, whichever is less, to keep it really accessory to that industrial use, that would be allowed as well. That's not generally allowed under the manufacturing and industrial districts. Again, this is all zone planned mixed use overlay, and so it has its own text. And so we have a little bit of the freedom and flexibility to have these discussions and bring these items before you in a way that helps the applicant, and I think hopefully helps this property and this lot in particular moving forward. I know the applicant is bringing forward here shortly in the next couple of months a final development plan for that lot as well. So your staff and your planning commission do recommend approval of this case as submitted. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Dave? Amy, did you want to add anything to the applicant?
I think Dave's done a good job.
Okay, great. All right, then I'll open up to the public. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And what is the wish of council on ordinance 16-28?
Move we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 1628.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer? Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for approval of ordinance 16-28.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, let's jump on back up to item 10 because we have 8 minutes to kill. And so if you'll read this one in the record, please.
From Compass Group USA, Inc., doing business as Chartwell's Selby Stadium, 45 South Henry Street, Delaware, Ohio, 43015, to Compass Group USA, Inc., 40 Roland Avenue, Delaware, Ohio, 43015, permit class D5.
Thank you. Chief Janowski, hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. For consideration is a liquor permit transfer request. This is from Compass Group, which is doing business as Chartwells. They are the caterers for Ohio Wesleyan University. Long story short, when the Ohio Machine came to town, they transferred their liquor license from Hamilton Williams to Selby Stadium to accommodate the sports team. Now that Ohio Machine is gone, they want to transfer it back to Hamilton Williams, and that is the nature of this request. There's no legislative basis for requesting hearing.
Any questions? What is the wish of council?
Move to accept the transfer without objection.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Thank you. All right, what else can we do here?
Go to
Yeah, let's do 14, consideration of ordinance 16-33.
14. Bill's gonna do both of those.
Ordinance number 16-33, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperation agreement with Delaware County for the resurfacing of Warrensburg Road.
Mr. Farino, hello.
Hello, Mayor, members of council. We've entered into these agreements before whereby the county is resurfacing one of their streets, which would be County Road 172, Warrensburg Road. They are willing to resurface that through the corporate limits up to 37. If we participate with our fair share, that's about a quarter mile of road within the city limits at an estimated cost of $44,648. That cost is included in our resurfacing program this year, and the county will execute that project for us this year within the resurfacing program with approval of this. And we are recommending going to another reading to give you time to think.
Okay, all right. You want to stay there and want to read, what? Want to read 15, please?
Ordinance number 16-34, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to upgrade crosswalks, install pedestrian countdown signals, as well as rectangular rapid flashing beacons at various locations throughout the city.
Yes, again, this is a good project. Our traffic engineer, Jessica Omeroyd, worked with the state to acquire just under $59,000 through the safety program. This is a subset of that called the systematic safety improvements. The ODOT is wanting to spend small amounts of money on the maximum amount of miles of roads possible to improve safety. This particular expenditure of ODOT funds will add 9 intersections to countdown timers. You see it, a few of them. We'll add it to 9 full intersections with this. Project is being planned, designed, and will be constructed by ODOT. It just requires legislation approval from the city in order for them to be able to work within the city. And again, this is a first reading tonight on this. And I can answer any questions.
Can any of this money be used for the signalization out here?
No, that's been asked before. Unfortunately, that doesn't fit within the systematic safety improvements program.
Okay,
We're looking for other sources of funds
okay.
for that.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Farino other than that one? Okay, thank you.
You can take item E2.
You want to do E now too?
Yeah, I think we have enough time.
Okay, back up to item E. You're going to cover that for us also in the consent agenda. You've already read it in the record. So, okay.
Yes, this one I do seek approval tonight on this. The reason we took it off the consent agenda, there's been a very last minute good news for the city change. What this legislation is about is just seeking approval to submit a grant for the next phase of airport taxiway improvements. What we're going to submit for is one of the connector roads from the main ramp out onto across the taxiway onto the runway. We just, towards the very end of last week and today, received confirmation that ODOT has additional funds that they're willing to allocate directly towards the city, non-competitively, to be able to complete this project. So what we're doing is we'll accept that funds, and we're changing our grant application for the last section now of the airport taxiway, which would be taxiway A. So the actual resolution, the only change is we're changing from taxiway B to taxiway A, and taxiway A would be the grant we submit for 2017-2018 funding. So in a sense, what we've acquired $400,000 in the past few days to accelerate the improvements out the airport. So tonight I'm seeking approval of resolution 1616 for a submitted grant for taxiway A resurfacing.
Darren, what would you like, council? How do you want them to amend that? I mean, make that change.
Well, we're going to have to make a motion to amend it the way Bill said. When they pass that motion, they can vote
As amended.
as amended. Yeah, that's the easy part. I just don't have the actual words. You know, they know what they were.
So what
runways are we changing it to and from again?
it'll be just changing taxiway B to taxiway A.
I move that we amend resolution 1616 to change runway B to runway A.
Second.
Okay, I have a
Taxiway.
Pardon?
Taxiway.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Rohr.
Okay.
That work?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to adopt resolution 1616 as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Rohr. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you find any more money? This is great.
And give good credit to staff. Joe Bowles, who worked really diligently with our ODOT consultant and our airport consultant, CHA, over the past 2 or 3 days to make this happen. So it is really good news for the city.
Thank
Hey, Bill, does that include the full width of the taxiway? No, last year when I was on the commission, it was, they were only going,
Yeah.
28 feet versus 36.
For the
whatever that
existing,
was.
for the existing mill and fill of taxiway A, it will be the full width of what's existing there because it's not reconstruction.
Thank you.
Is there a problem?
No problem.
Okay.
I was
It
just
is
saying
seven-
how she likes amendments done.
Okay. It is 7:50, and Elaine, if you'll please read item 13, which is ordinance number 16-29 in the record.
Ordinance number 16-29, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit for Shorty's Casual Cuisine to construct a temporary outdoor patio at 554 West Central Avenue on approximately 1.1 acres on property zoned B3 Community Business District.
Thank you. Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is a conditional use permit for an outdoor patio on private property for Shorty's at 54 West Central. This is location map. It's approximately across from the hospital. It is zoned B3 Commercial Business District. Aerial photograph should we need it, and I'll just point out now in what location, if I can get the arrow to work here, the patio will be. Right there, occupying about those 2 parking spaces as they appear on this aerial photograph. It's a small, about 400 square foot temporary outdoor patio. Part of the issues involved here are making sure that the patio doesn't extend beyond really these parking lines and therefore into the adjacent drive aisle. Applicants already expressed willingness to pull back or shorten up the width of the patio, if you like, to conform with that. In addition, they will be putting in a ramp to allow some handicap accessibility off of the adjacent sidewalk that's right in front of the main doors to Shorty's. We'll include a number of tables, as you can see here, in addition to some fencing and some landscaping to really separate this patio from the parking lot and the drive aisle that's adjacent to it. The idea that we've been discussing with the applicant that they proposed is that this is really a temporary trial for them. They want to kind of see how this goes. They've been approached by some different sports teams and patrons and what have you to have an outdoor space like this, see how it goes for them and for the area, and then perhaps make this potentially more permanent down the road. But for now, the hours of operation, the applicant has proposed self-restrictions in that regard, as you can see in your packet. In addition to no, and consistent with our other patios, no outdoor music or outdoor speakers. The applicant's also done a good job, from what we understand, in talking to the neighbors and letting them know what his plans are and how he's going to use the patio, how they're going to use the patio, and how they'll restrict sound and hours of operation and lighting and the like. So your planning commission did recommend unanimous approval, as do we as staff. The applicant is here tonight, may want to add some more discussion to that, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Dave? Would the applicants like to come forward?
Sure.
If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. John Cordes, 554 West Central Avenue, 43085.
Tom Ivinson, 554 West Central Avenue, Delaware, Ohio, 43015.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to pull back from 20 feet to 18 feet to give the proper driveway. The ramp is going to be moved to the center between the 2 tables because Ms. Jessel is going to end up, we have a temporary ramp for now, but she's going to end up digging out the sidewalk to actually make a permanent ramp there for us. And then other than that, now we're not going to have any music or lighting or any kind of signs. Just we follow your guys' code.
Are you going to extend your liquor license out to this patio?
Yes.
Yeah, we've been in contact with Diane Gifford. She's been helping us out a lot with how the design should be, what are the rules, and they actually can't approve it until it's built in its entirety. So pending your approval, we will be there at 8 a.m. putting it together to try to get approval.
Okay.
So if you see us, just honk.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? I just want to say thank you as new owners. You guys are doing a great job, and I'm glad there's another patio in Delaware because I'm always looking for a patio.
I think everybody is. Yeah.
And you need to just watch
Thank
the
you.
weather, and the weather's good, you need to open.
Yeah.
Other ones just drive me crazy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
if no further questions, we'll open it to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And what is the wish of council on ordinance 16-29?
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1629.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for approval of ordinance 16-29.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Get busy, guys.
Thank you.
Then we'll jump down to item 16 with consideration of ordinance 16-35.
Ordinance number 16-35, an ordinance supplementing the 2016 appropriations ordinance to establish funding for the engraving and installing of bricks for the Veterans Memorial Plaza and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and in order to have the bricks engraved and installed before the May 30th grand opening, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. The supplemental that you have in front of you is basically, as you know, we are selling, quote unquote, the bricks for Veterans Plaza for the people that maybe have lost loved ones that served in war, were veterans of a war. And what we need is a vehicle in order to pay for the engraving. And so the appropriation you see in front of you is for our ability for people who fill out the application, they pay for either the brick or the paver, and then we will hire an engraver to come on site and actually engrave the bricks. So this is what this appropriation is for. We actually do charge a little bit more than the actual cost of engraving the paver. We do that in order to cover overhead for the engraver because it's an on-site engraver, so we have to pay him extra for coming on site. And then we keep the funds in case there is ever a need to fix the pavers or the bricks at a future time to make sure that we have the ability to take care of the plaza the way it should be. So that's what this is for.
Okay.
We're actually receiving money in, we'll pay money a lot less out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? What is the wish of council?
I move we suspend the rules, 3 readings on 1635.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the adoption of the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for the adoption of 1635 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
And item 17 is consideration of ordinance 16-36. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 16-36, an ordinance supplementing the 2016 appropriations ordinance to establish funding for various city-related events and declaring an emergency. Emergency Clause, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and in order to purchase all items before the anticipated events, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. The supplemental that you have in front of you for your review and consideration is for for additional funds in order to help us pay for grand openings and ribbon cuttings. Because you haven't noticed, I believe we've had a record number and are going to have a record number of openings of parks, et cetera, over the last next several weeks, actually. And so in order to celebrate these accomplishments for the citizens, we are trying to give them the openings that they all deserve. And so that comes with a cost. And so we're asking for an additional, or to have an additional $9,500 in order to pay for these openings and to celebrate these events, as well as investing in a tent that actually has the City of Delaware logo on it that can be used for First Fridays, the fair, Ironman, recruiting, groundbreakings, recreational events, and now a festival. I could go on and on and on. But while we were doing this, we thought it would be a good time to buy such a piece of equipment because now we're really finding out how much we really could use it, and it's about celebrating Delaware, and that's why we wanted to have these extra funds. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So, and I asked Tom this earlier. From the details that we saw in there, quick math gave me $5,800 or $6,000, but you're requesting $9,500. So, what are you anticipating that additional $3,500 being needed?
Right. So the tent is $1,155, so it takes up to $6,800, and then we did add in extra money just in case we have forgotten of anything that could or would need something like this, like the canoe drop-ins. We have not even begun to consider what that opening or dedication would look like. So I don't know what that would cost. We still have the water treatment plant that once the educational piece is done, that we'll want to have a celebration out there as well. Smith Park with the trail opening, Mingo Park with the work that's been done out there. We haven't done any of the, celebrations that they deserve. So we did put some extra money in there, but we have no intention of spending that money. And I think that Michelle's done an excellent job of keeping costs down and looking for the best prices for these events. But we would not spend the money unless it was, needed.
You're going to have, you done, Jerry? You're going to have a tent.
Well, that's part of what the $9,500 would be, the canopy tent.
What about chairs? I'm on 2 committees and we have to rent chairs, 100 chairs at $3 a chair. And
Don't we have chairs at Mingo?
not enough chairs, I don't think, to travel around. And just
No.
even at the Veterans Memorial, we're not going to have enough chairs internally from the National Guard and that. So I think maybe you might want to look at buying some chairs with some of that.
The tent that we're looking at, Joe, is only 10 by 10. So it's just a small place for people to get out, like First Fridays, just so that people understand that the city has a presence at an
So
event.
we'll have enough chairs in-house.
No,
You're not gonna have any
that's
chairs?
another.
I think we'd have enough chairs for the purposes of the tent. I think what you're referring to is if we have a large gathering of some kind, if we need 100 chairs, could we possibly use these dollars for that? I think we'd probably want to look at another source for
Right.
that, but I know this has come up in connection with the veterans event out at the community center and a couple of other times. So we'll just have to take that up separately, but.
Right.
Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, I thought the YMCA had chairs, but I guess they don't have that many, and the National Guard doesn't have that many. And we might need possibly 300 to 500 on May 30th.
Oh, for the plaza dedication, okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to have to.
I don't know how many of those type of events we're gonna have.
Right.
If that be a source of income. for us.
Right.
If not, we'll have to.
I think that for the Veterans Memorial Plaza dedication, Joe, we'll be able to have enough chairs between the two sources out there. But we can talk a little bit about the chairs and tables at Mingo later if you'd like.
Mhm. Put it in that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, what is wish of council?
I move for, hold on, sorry, I've lost my place now. Okay, we are on item 17, right? Okay, I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 16-36.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Keller, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for approval of ordinance 16-36.
Emergency clause.
I'm
first.
sorry, I move to enact the emergency clause on 16-36.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Now I move for approval of 16-36.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
And item 18 is consideration of ordinance 16-37. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 16-37, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Northeast Ohio Medical University and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause. This ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city by facilitating the timely participation in the project and expediting the city's reimbursement, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this ordinance will allow the city manager to sign an agreement that will allow us to work with the Northeast Ohio Medical University as part of a project looking into data sharing between law enforcement and mental health agencies. We're going a little bit backwards here, and I'm going to try and make a long story short, but prior to my tenure, Chief Martin initiated a multi-agency crisis intervention team where law enforcement works with service providers and mental health agencies across the city and kind of across specialties to provide better services to some of the consumers that we frequently run into on a regular basis. And the goal there was just to try and lessen the impact of their mental illness and lessen their contact with the law enforcement community. In 2012, just prior to his leaving, we applied for a program. We applied to be part of a study with the Police Executive Research Forum and Council of State Governments looking at data sharing with mental health. And we pitched what I called an early warning system, where we wanted to take our interactions with people with mental illnesses that we felt contributed to that and provide that information directly to mental health so that they could have an early warning when their clients were having problems. And this was designed to keep them from multiple contacts with law enforcement and to keep them from declining as far as they often were. So we were selected as one of 3 agencies in the country to participate in that study, and we actually proposed, implemented, and conducted our data collection. Unfortunately, the other 2 agencies, the Denver, Colorado Police Department and the Cambridge, Massachusetts Police Department, never actually implemented their piece of the study. So we don't have any results, but I can tell you that our results are that we are seeing some of the less frequent consumers on a more regular basis, and Central Ohio Mental Health is getting more of the calls and doing more work on the front end with some of the frequent consumers. So anecdotally, it's been a success. That was in 2012. We pitched that program to be very simple for our officers to use and to be very effective. And when the study was over, we just kept doing it. So we're still doing that. In 2014, the Attorney General put together a work group and invited us to be part of a group just looking at what different agencies were doing with data sharing with mental health. And we were invited to explain what our program does. Kent State University and Northeast Ohio Medical University were part of that. And in 2014, they started studying every police agency across the state to find out what everyone's practices were. And earlier or late last year, they ended up calling us and one other police department asking us to consider being part of this project and mentor another police agency to try and replicate what we're doing and to see what works that we might be able to implement in Ohio. So we obviously agreed with that, and really didn't anticipate being reimbursed any funding, but late in the game, being 2 weeks ago, they realized they had funding in their grant to reimburse the agencies that they were working with. And so that's where the emergency clause comes in, because it has to be done by the end of this month. Like I said, I wasn't really interested in money doing this, and the $3,000 amount is something that I had talked with the city attorney and the finance director. I would be comfortable receiving that, and what I thought we would do is we would receive that and then earmark that as kind of be a pass-through and send it to Delaware Memorial Mental Health and Recovery Services so that they can use it to fund more mental health training for law enforcement across the county. They are the primary sponsor of our CIT, our crisis intervention training, that we try to have every one of our officers go to. So we thought that would be a beneficial purpose to receive this if we can get the paperwork through in time. So I'd ask that you approve the ordinance as well as the emergency clause.
That's wonderful. Any questions? Any motions?
I move we suspend rules on 3 readings on 1637.
Second. Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for the adoption of the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for the adoption of 1637 as submitted by the chief.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Rohr. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do. And item 19 is consideration of ordinance 16-38. The clerk, please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 16-38, an ordinance amending the employment agreement with the city manager.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council. This ordinance is a very simple one. City Manager Homan's contract agreement runs year to year, but his year is unlike the rest of the employees. It's end of February. So we're close to that year. But what this ordinance does is increases pay by the same 2% that other staff members got. The only other change that's in that agreement that you'll notice is I've changed some of the dates because last year's dates already happened. So other than that, there should be no changes than those two. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I think on item 15, I think the wording is wrong. If you look at number 15 in the agreement,
Oh, 15 on the agreement, I'm sorry.
it says the city will afford, and I think it should say will provide.
Okay,
So if you can just make that correction.
I would be happy to. And I also want to point out that because this is a ordinance having to do with salary increases, that I recommend going at 3 readings or at least 2, but most likely 3.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, we'll move on to item 20, which is resolution 16-17.
Resolution number 16-17, a resolution establishing the pay rate for a seasonal position not included in the permanent part-time pay plan.
Thank you. Mr. Stanton?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This resolution is to establish a permanent part-time pay plan for the watershed coordinator position. Recently, our watershed coordinator resigned to take a position with a private development company. Because of the number of ongoing projects that she had established. We were recommending that Kristen come back and work through at least the Now Festival, which is on June 18th, approximately 10 hours a week, $25 an hour. This will allow us to complete several projects that she started. Like I said, the Now Festival, finalizing the contents of the exhibit at the water plant, completing the ODNR grant requirements for the boat launch sites, and doing the May and June stream water quality monitoring. This is approximately for about 7 weeks, like I said, 10 hours a week, approximately $1,700 over that 7 weeks. The $25 rate was established because of the current watershed rate with benefits would be about $25.36 an hour. We thought $25 an hour was a fair agreement to reach on this position. We're currently updating the job description for the watershed coordinator and hope to have that advertised shortly and have a candidate in place by the end of June so that we have a seamless transition from the Kristen's role as a part-time into a new full-time watershed coordinator / sustainability coordinator.
And just to clarify why you're seeing this legislation, because I don't think it has a negative impact on the budget. It probably actually is less than your budget.
Right. The watershed coordinator is a full-time budgeted position with the city.
But for every pay we do, including seasonals and part-times, we have some council action authorizing that rate, and there was just no rate that fit this amount. So like we did with our prior attorney helps that we needed, we just have to pass something that says this is the rate you can pay this person.
Any questions?
It's just a resolution.
It's just a resolution. Any motions?
I move for approval of Resolution 16-17.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Keller, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer? Mayor Riggle?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have some updates.
Yes, Jackie, do you want to provide a couple of minutes here?
Great. And I will be brief. The first thing that I would like to update council on is the bid process changes that we are proposing. We're very fortunate, a couple of our staff members brought to us the opportunity to use digital online bidding, and this will alleviate a lot of work for staff. You know, it's a better way to communicate to the community at large, all the vendors and contractors and things of that nature. The company that we're going to start out using is called Bid Express. However, if other digital online bidding process or companies, you know, would ask us, we would go with them as well. This costs the city nothing to be on this hosted website. It does cost contractors or vendors $25, I think, a month to belong, but that means that they get access to all of any contract out there on their site. And so it's not just the city of Delaware, but everyone's. It will save a lot of staff time once we get it loaded and everyone trained, and it's kind of like a digital succession plan. Currently, I'm the person in charge of bidding, and you know, if I would ever decide to leave the city, this would be a good way that people can, it's very easy to walk through, and you can basically have somebody turn it on, minimal training, and they can put out bids themselves. It unlocks bids, so to speak, online, and you can you don't have to do bid tabs. It automatically downloads everything. The contract populates contracts so that there's a lot of continuity through the bid process. So I just thought I'd update you what we'll be rolling out soon. The downtown refuse, Tom has asked me to partner with the Public Works Department and help move this project along. And I've done some preliminary work. I'd like to do a little bit more. And I'm working with staff to try to come up with some good solutions and resolutions. So I would be bringing back status updates to council as the project continues. Okay. And then finally, downtown parking project. So the last couple days have been a whirlwind with trying to get everything in line for the parking project. But I think that, and Kent, jump in if I'm misspeaking, I think that we have established our final steering committee as well as a group of 7 different groups of entities that include residents, city and county elected officials, business owners, landlords. Like I said, there are 7 different groups. And we have invited them to numerous meetings next week. This Friday, we are city staff and Vice Mayor Schaefer are going to meet with our consultants. We are going to have a kickoff meeting, walk around downtown, start talking about different places that we want them to set up shop while they're here the first couple weeks in May. And then next week, beginning on Tuesday, going through Thursday, there will be stakeholder meetings at different times during the day with different groups. And then on Thursday from 2 to 4 is the steering committees meeting with the consultant. Then the following week, MKSK will be, you'll start seeing their presence here. City staff will be doing some inventorying and some for them, as well as maybe some short interviews of people visiting the downtown. So I think Kent mentioned last meeting that he thought it came to a complete halt, and we've had a little action last couple of days. So that's good. Yeah. So those are my updates. I'm happy to answer questions on any of these topics if anyone has them.
Once you have all the meetings set up and the times on it, will you share that with public council?
I already have.
Okay.
I've already have. You received it probably about 5:30 this afternoon.
How's our year? So
Okay, that's right. So.
All righty.
Madam Mayor, can we go back to just I have a question about the refuse.
Sure.
Just where are we in terms of an update on where we were the last time? Because I'm just concerned because it's patio season and it's more of a problem in the summer. And I was hoping that we could come up with something before it became a stinky issue.
Right. Where are we?
I believe that there were some recommendations that we can bring before council with respect to the notification period. That we can do, and we can probably have that ready for the next meeting. I'm not 100% sure, Lisa, that that's going to change it completely, but at least it gives us the tools to
address it.
Do better enforcement. Some of this is just trying to change the behavior of not only the landlords, but the tenants who live there. But,
right. And in the changes that we're looking at making, Darren had worked with Bill Farino on making some suggested changes to our ordinances, having to do with, it would be citywide changes that anyone found dumping on, a city easement or right away, excuse me, that they, instead of having 48 hours to remove it, they have 24. Having, making sure that our code enforcement staff understands the need for them to go out and post dumping as soon as possible, so that the 24 hours can start ticking immediately. So those are some of the things, but we had discussed that that might be a good thing for council to consider anyway, doing throughout the city. As far as a resolution for our downtown area, there were some suggestions that were proposed and it had to do with centralized dumping. But we wanted to take a step back and make sure that was the right course of action. I'm going to be walking through the downtown with Terry Davenport this week to see if there are what our options are in working with the property owners. I do think that it's going to end up being something where the property owners are going to have to take responsibility for their tenants, and we need to encourage and help the property owners to do that.
I guess what my concern though is if you have an outdoor patio where you're serving food, if our rule is that it can be there for 24 hours, that's still disrupting.
Right. And that was our citywide proposal. We may, and again, I'm just going to need to have some more time to figure this out, but one of the proposals that may come back to council is that there is no dumping of trash of any sort in the downtown districts. And that's not unusual in some of the research I've done already. A lot of cities do have downtown refuse districts where there is no, you don't set your trash out as long as you're in the downtown area. The city provides central dumping areas throughout their board, throughout the downtowns, let's say, and you are required to walk your trash there. Now, that is an option and certainly something we can bring to council for them to review. But there's pros and cons to that as well, because that would apply to your businesses too. So you would have to tell some of your downtown businesses and restaurants, you can't put your trash out front. You can't put it on William Street. You're going to have to take your trash and recycling to a centralized location. So there's pros and cons in what I want to do before I can do it either way. We can do pilot programs. I just wanted to do have a little bit more time to consider what our options can be and should be, because I want to try to avoid as many missteps as possible.
I think Jackie's approach is good in that we can change our code to be more punitive, but unless you make it easier for people to comply, I just don't know if it's going to really be feasible to enforce on everybody who violates it, because I just don't see us having the will to write a bunch of tickets on every single person after 24 hours, and we have 100 tickets and people are complaining. So if we can't give them an easier way to do it that's appropriate, I think that approach wouldn't get us a success, which is why we haven't put that legislation in front of you yet, because it's just one piece of a solution.
Well, and I've become the face of downtown trash, and so I'm getting the messages.
She is.
And they're getting taken care of immediately, but I get messages that there's trash with pictures, and I forward them on to the city manager, and they're picked up right away. But
right,
I mean, I'm happy to do it, but there's got to be a better way.
And the response, I know that when I spoke with Terry Davenport and Joe Bolus, and I think Bill was in that meeting, is that that may not be sustainable for them to come right out and pick that up, because then they're like on-demand service.
Right.
It's just not sustainable. And
it's inconveniencing.
I'll be honest with you,
chain.
Lisa, there's absolutely no reason, I agree with you, you shouldn't be the face of that. You're welcome to send them to me. I'm not going to say what you said, but you're welcome to send them to me. And I'm sure Bill would be happy to field those as well. So you can take that crown off, I guess.
I am the face of garbage. And
I know.
That's a great headline.
It's something I've taken up trying to solve the problem, so I get the complaint.
Well, and actually, as we move forward, because we're looking at some ordinance changes and maybe some policy changes in the downtown, we'll be looking for a champion on council. So,
I guess it naturally falls to me.
Naturally.
Thank you for your work on that. I
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
update.
Thanks.
Anything else on that one? All right, item 22 is the finance director's report. Mr. Stelzer?
Thank you. Report through March 31st was sent out electronically on Friday, I believe. Attached to it was a short summary. So far this year, nothing of any significance is showing itself in our budget yet. I did hand out tonight a report about an annual report that's required under our impact fee legislation. Required to summarize the expenditures, what we use our impact fee monies for annually. As you recall, those funds can only be used for capacity improvements, expansions of the system. Can't be used for maintenance or personnel costs or anything like that. There's no legislative action that needs to be taken, just need to present it to City Council. So the report includes the required information, has a summary of the impact fees collected by month, with the breakdown with our 4 impact fees: parks, police, fire, and municipal services, what the expenditures were in 2015. I also have to monitor to make sure that the money that we collect is expended for a proper purpose within a 5-year period. Otherwise, we're subject to rebating some of those impact fees paid. And the only one of those 4 fees that's really close is our park impact fee. We're currently still expending funds collected in 2012, 2013. So we're within the 5-year threshold. And I do believe we're going to be expending funds this year for some trail improvements and different things like that. So we should be in pretty good shape. Again, no legislative actions, just a report present to council. I'd entertain any questions about the finance report or the impact fee report if you have any.
Are you breathing now that tax season's over?
Yeah, we did okay, I think. We were able to stay ahead of things, not too many backups down in the tax office, so.
Good.
Hopefully our prosecution efforts will get more people to file, so.
Did you notice numbers at all, or?
Nothing that they quantified.
Any other questions for Mr. Skelton? Okay, city manager's report?
Just real quickly, the Moving Delaware Forward Roadshow has been hitting the road. We were at the Rotary Club last week, thanks to Mayor Riggle and the others who were able to attend that meeting. We received, as all speakers do, a book in recognition of the program. It's dedicated to it's given to the Children's Library at the district library, and the title of the book was Incredible Car Stunts. So that was apropos for our Moving Delaware Forward presentation. We also received a certificate of appreciation for the presentation that we made to the Kiwanians, the Evening Kiwanis Club last week. We're speaking to the Noon Kiwanis Club in a couple of weeks, and I think I've been keeping you updated on the other meetings. We had a homeowners association meeting, Locust Curve. Councilman Jones was there, and Vice Mayor Hellinger and staff, and I thought that went very well. It was more of a conversation and less of a presentation, a lot of good feedback. And it turns out the property management group Omni, which handles the HOA for Locust Curve, also handles it for several other HOAs in the city. We forwarded them the information. They're going to get it out to their Facebook pages. So that's going to be very helpful. And then we've got some upcoming presentations over the next 6 weeks. So that's going quite well. And that concludes my presentation.
All those notes, and that's all you have?
Some of these are.
Okay.
Some of it's doodling.
Council comments, Mr. Jones?
I have none tonight.
Mrs. Kelly?
I'm done.
Mr. DeGenova?
I have two, status update on the railroad crossing on London. If we can get that for the next meeting or two.
I can tell you it's actually scheduled for mid-May.
Mid-May?
Middle of May to start.
Oh, okay.
So we got 2 weeks of work.
Okay. And Friday, a group of us are going down to the State House. Stacy Davenport's father is going to be inducted into the Ohio Hall of Fame for heroes. And the 1095, which Larry Klein was also into, we're all going down to support Stacy's dad for that event. That's all I have.
Mr. Roy?
No.
Mr. Hellinger?
Not a thing.
Mr. Schaefer? Okay, good news, there's no May workshop. And then DKMM has contacted me, they need somebody to be working on that, okay? And then tomorrow night I'm having an Ironman captain's meeting, if anybody's interested in being a captain. City Hall, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, and I'll buy pizza.
You get a fancy hat? That's what I was going to say.
I'll make your hat a festival. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned at 8:33.
Cheryl, you going to have
Yes. Yes, we did. At 5:15.